Where am I? Oh my god, I remember I was in my bathroom. Why am I here? What is this place?
Why are we all tied up? Anyone got a knife or scissor?
Human, you are now kidnapped by my lord, Duke of Osiris. You must not permit yourself to damage any item within this space at will.
What?
Our purpose harbors no intent to inflict harm. We simply request a solitary response to each individual's inquiry. Upon addressing the query, you are at liberty to take your leave.
What does that mean? So does that mean we can leave after answering one question? What if we got it wrong?
Indeed, we shall proceed with the untying once you demonstrate a willingness to address the question. Should the responses prove incorrect, it will regrettably result in your demise.
What? Oh my god!
The first question is, the United States is under condition rate. Therefore, yes, to increase the interest rate.
I think I know the answer, but I'm so scared.
Please answer the questions.
No, I didn't say I want to answer.
Please answer the questions.
The federal funds rate is the interest rate at which banks lend money to each other overnight. It's set by the Federal Reserve to help control the economy, and the Fed has kept this rate high because of high inflation, which means prices are rising too quickly. By raising the rate, the Fed makes borrowing more expensive and saving more attractive. This reduces spending and investment, helping to slow down the economy and bring down inflation. This discount rate is the interest rate at which the central bank lends money to commercial banks. The Central Bank of Taiwan increased its discount rate to 2% to fight inflation. By raising this rate, borrowing money becomes more expensive, which reduces spending and slows down the economy. This helped to lower inflation by decreasing the overall demand for goods and service. The real exchange rate measures the relative price of goods between two countries, adjusted for inflation. And this graph shows how the capital flow affects the real exchange rate. The nominal exchange rate is the rate at which one country's currency can be exchanged for another country's currency. And because the Japanese yen depreciates of US dollars increases, so the demand curve shifts to the right. And for the last question, continuous capital outflow from Japan means that there are more Japanese yen available in the foreign exchange market because people are selling their yen to get other currencies like the US dollar. So you need more Japanese yen to buy $1 US. This makes the exchange rate go up to 160 Japanese yen in the foreign exchange market. And the Central Bank of Japan can intervene by buying Japanese yen in the foreign exchange market. And this intervention increases the demand for Japanese yen, helping to push the exchange rate down. And that's all.
Ascertaining the accuracy. Correct. You may leave.
They didn't lie to us, actually disappeared.
China has experienced a fast economic growth since it opened the door to the
Oh,
world.
I know the answer. This one is mine.
The first question is AD shift left because the trade war made China cannot export to America, so NX will decrease. Then it affects GDP, so AD will shift left. And the second question is also the answer will be AD shift left because when foreign companies keep leaving China, then it means that the investment in China will decrease. Then it will also make GDP decrease strongly, so AD shift left. The third question is, the answer is also the same, because this crisis, real estate crisis in China is very big problem. Even now it's not fixed. So mainly it's about that local government's tax is too high percent from the companies that buys local government's land. So when the company who build the houses cannot afford the tax to pay to the local government, then the company cannot keep going and the government won't have enough tax. So government's income will decrease and G will decrease. This is the first factor of why AD shift left. And the second factor will be because of this big problem, so people tend to scared of buying house because they're afraid of they also cannot pay the tax, or maybe the house the company who build houses just run away just because maybe they have their own problem too. So it's like it's not a good time for customer to buy any house, and this makes C decrease too. And both these affects GDP, so AD shift left. The fourth question: how can stock market crash influence the aggregate demand in China? The answer will be AD shift left. Because stock market crash, well, that's the C. Consumer will buy less. So it will affect GDP and AD shift left. The number 5 question: analyze the impact of these black swings on China's real GDP. Long run and short run. Okay, so this will be the first AD will be here, and then because of the black swings on China's real GDP, so AD shift left and become this one. So the P and Q will from the first dot to the second dot. So P decrease, also output quantity decrease. This is the short run effect here. Okay, and the long run effect will be this one, will be number 3 dot, because this is the long run aggregate supply. So the short run aggregate supply will shift right, then it will match the long run aggregate supply. So here the quantity of output will not change, but the price will change, will decrease here. Okay, so number 6 question: what would you suggest Chinese government do in response to the short-run economic fluctuation? Because in the long run, the economy will fix by itself and always shift back to the long run aggregate supply. So I think I would suggest Chinese government do nothing at all, or because it's like there's too many little factors to think of, and if you think you go one step wrong, then maybe things will get worse, because in the economy it's not that simple, just like numbers and line. It's so much more complicated. So my personality is like it's not that I won't take any risk, and I'm more like just let this thing straight out by itself. So yeah, due to my personality, so I suggest do nothing. The 7th question. What would you suggest Central Bank of China to do in response to the short-run economic fluctuation caused by these black swings? I would suggest Central Bank of China to increase the money supply, because when you increase the money supply, then the export will increase, so NX will increase. This will decrease the damage caused by the trade war. And the second reason is when you increase money supply, then the interest rate will fall, won't be that high. So people tend to take the money out of the bank, maybe invest or maybe just buy things. So it will increase C and maybe I. So I suggest they increase the money supply.
Ascertaining the accuracy. Correct. You may leave.
I'm not sure about this
Oh
one.
my god, I don't even know what all these questions are about. What should I do?
Mimi wants to answer.
What? No!
Please answer the question.
For the first question, and the question mentioned one of the sanctions, and this sanction will affect energy market. So this is the original supplies and original demand. And since this sanction, the supply will decrease. The supplies will shift to the left. So the quantity decrease and the price go up. And question 2, how could this sanction affect overall price in the European Union in the short run? So this is the long run aggregate supply and the short run aggregate supply and short run aggregate demand. And since the sanction, the short run aggregate supplies shift to the left. And the black one is the original equilibrium. This one, the red one, is the new equilibrium place.
So we know that in the short run, the overall price increase and the output decrease. Since the output decrease, so companies do not need many workers because the production will decrease, so they do not need such great amount of workers, so will have a higher unemployment. And the third question is, if EU authority would like to solve the inflation problem, and what are the fiscal policies? Okay, and first we can use lowering the government spending. This is the first solution of fiscal policy because it will reduce the total demand for goods and service. And this reduction in demand helps to bring down the overall price level. And the second is increase taxes. Because higher taxes decrease disposable income for households and after-tax profits for business, will lead to reduced consumer spending and investments. So the reduction in aggregate demand helps to lower inflationary pressures. And the fourth question is the monetary policy. The first policy is lowering interest rate. Because a lower interest rate will decrease the cost of borrowing for households and business, encourage higher levels of consumption and investments. The increase in spending boosts aggregate demand, which helps to stimulate economic activity and reduce unemployment. And the second policy of monetary is quantitative easing. By buying these securities, will inject liquidity into the banking systems, increasing the money supply. And this action lowers long-term interest rates and make more funds available for lending, further stimulating spending and investments. Fifth problem is, could EU authority use a single policy to simultaneously solve both inflation and recession problems? And you can see that this is the original graph, and due to the sanction, the supply shift to the depth, and now we need a way to reduce the inflation and recession. So we can increase our supply. So our short-run aggregate supply shift to the right. And due to this measure, the price decreased and the output increased. So the price decrease will reduce the inflation, and the output increase will reduce the recession. It's not a perfect way, but it's a measure to face the inflation and recession simultaneously.
Ascertaining the accuracy. Correct. You may leave.
I know the answer.
Now I'm going to start answering the first question. From this graph, it shows that an increase in money supply lowers the interest rate. And after many times of reductions in interest rate approaches zero, which is when using conventional monetary policy is no longer effective, suggesting a liquidity trap. For the second question, quantitative easing policy is a form of monetary policy in which a central bank purchases predetermined amounts of government bonds in order to stimulate economic activity. For the difference between quantitative easing policy and conventional monetary policy, quantitative easing policy focuses on buying longer-term assets, while conventional monetary policy focuses on adjusting short-term interest rates. For the third question, between 2008 and 2014, the Fed authorized 3 rounds of large-scale asset purchases, which is 3.7 trillion worth of bonds in total, resulting in increasing its bond holdings eightfold. However, this also caused surging inflation and devalued currency. For the fourth question, quantitative easing policy lowers long-term interest rate and increases money supply. This encourages borrowing. Also, raising asset prices makes consumers feel wealthier, boosting consumption and investment, so aggregate demand increases. Now I'm going to answer the last question. Quantitative easing policy causes the aggregate demand to increase, so the AD curve shifts to the right. From the graph, you can see that in the short run, output increases and overall price of the economy rises, meaning price level falls. This shows that quantitative easing policy causes inflation. In the long run, since wages adjust to the price level, output doesn't change, but price level still falls, implying that overall price of the economy still rises.
Ascertaining the accuracy. Correct. You may leave.
So the supply side economics and the demand side economics differ very differently. So I'm going to demonstrate the 3 key measures of both sides and explain what their core belief is. So the supply side economics, the first key is that they would decrease the income and capital gains tax rate. Second, they will decrease corporate tax. Third, they will decrease government regulation. And the core belief is that this will lower by lowering taxes and decreased regulation will lead to increased production.
which will ultimately benefit the economy as a whole. On the other hand, the demand side economics. First, the increasing government spending on infrastructure. Second, providing unemployment benefits. Third, reduce taxes for the low and middle income brackets. So what they are trying to do is that they want the role of the government spending and policy that directly increase consumer demand. This operates on a premise that the economy is often constrained by lack of demand. And the best way to stimulate growth is to increase the purchasing power of potential consumers. And that is the difference between supply-side economics and demand-side economics. President Trump decided to have a tax cut, while President Biden decided to have a tax increase policy. So first, we need to know about supply-side economy, which is stimulating economic growth by increasing the supply of goods and services, while the demand side is to stimulate economic growth by increasing demand of goods and services. The reason why President Trump decided to have a tax cut policy is that they believe that reducing taxes for businesses and high-income earners will lead to increased investment and higher production, or ultimately greater economic prosperity for the whole country. On the other side, President Biden believes that by increasing demand for goods and services is a pathway to economic growth. And this theory supports the idea that government should play an active role in the economy by managing demand through fiscal policies. And by redistributing the wealth through higher taxes on the rich and spending on public services, the aim is to boost consumer spending, create jobs, and enhance overall economic stability. For question 3, we are going to look about what the Trump's policy will influence the market. And first, we are going to look at the loanable fund in the USA. And since lower corporate taxes will lead to higher retained earnings for companies, it will lead to an increasing amount of savings available in the economy, so the savings will increase, which made the loanable funds increase. And as the supply of loanable funds increase, as we can see from the diagram, the supply curve will shift to the right and make the real interest rate increase. So the real interest rate will increase. Next, we look at the net capital outflow. And since lower corporate taxes can make the USA a more attractive investment destination, the net capital outflow would increase, as we can see from the diagram also. And as we can see from the diagram, the supply curve and the demand curve both shift to the right, and so that the real exchange rate will increase. However, a strong currency can increase the purchasing power or imports, but it might reduce export competitiveness. so the trade balance might worsen off.
Ascertaining the accuracy. Correct. You may leave.
Wake up.
Where am I now?
You just leave your brains away. Of course, we are in economics class.
Oh, I had such a weird dream. I dreamt of being kidnapped by aliens.
I don't care about that. Did you know